Greetings. Today will be a little different from previous videos due to Nurgle's plague raising its ugly head and causing another lockdown in my area. I've not been able to obtain some parts I needed for what I did have planned, so instead I decided to stick the camera on whilst repairing some old tower models I recently got from eBay a month or so ago, as this would give me a chance to try out a different camera setup, a bit more practice on the video editing front, and also because why not? So I got 4 old crisis suits from one listing and a broadsword from another, each coming with a variety of weapon extras and all in various states of damage. In the interest of time, because no one really wants to spend 3 hours watching me fix multiple battlesuits, I picked one of the less damaged ones. This one was minus the feet, half of one arm was disconnected and the other arm was barely hanging in there. It was also the proud owner of a rather thick paint job that would first need to be removed, so carefully separating the guns from the arms, as I have another idea for these, I placed it all in the basket for my sonic cleaner. This is a small one I found on the net for dirt cheap, and whilst it does the job, I will likely invest in a decent one at some stage. For cleaning fluid in this, I used isopropyl alcohol, as I have it to hand from cleaning resin prints. Some people use other products, but I find this is readily available and works fine enough. Just be careful to wear gloves when using it. After a while in the cleaner, the whole thing could be removed and scrubbed off with an old toothbrush until the paint is all gone, and I'm left with something like this. Now, still is some staining present on the plastic, and I probably could spend a bit more time taking this off, but it hasn't seemed to affect things by leaving it on in the past, and I am quite lazy sometimes. First up, we are missing feet. I turned to my trusty 3D printer for these, but the feet I have will need some adjustment if I'm going to use them, namely that big hole in the middle. To fill this gap up and give me something to attach our damaged suit's leg to, I turned to some sprue. Cutting off a small amount, I can then super glue this in place in the holes. It's just about the right size. Little bits of sprue like this can be excellent for this kind of thing when it comes to kit bashing, as sometimes you have a small hole that needs filling and no green stuff to hand. It also can help if you're filling a larger gap with putty, as by filling some of that space with plastic, you're lowering the amount of putty needed. Save yourself a little bit of money there. With the super glue drying on the feet, I stuck them aside and decided to work on the arms. Before attaching the arms, however, I figured it was probably a good time to get the guns in place. The box of bits that came with these had quite a few of the Battlesuit weapons, but I wanted to go with cyclic ion blasters because I really like the look of the weapon. I honestly have no idea if it's good in game, but I generally go with a rule of cool. So again, I turn to my trusty 3D printer, as availability of these parts in plastic is quite low, especially in a lockdown. The 3D printed ones I have here are a little bit bigger than the other guns for the battlesuits, but I can live with that. Attaching these to the arms will be a simple process of pinning. As they are resin, I would need to use super glue anyway, and they will need the extra strength because they're quite large. So, taking my 1mm drill bit, I eyeballed where to stick the holes, drilled out a couple of millimeters deep on both parts before supergluing a length of paperclip into place on the gun side. Taking an old pair of clippers so as not to damage the nice new ones I use in plastics, I took the wire off at about the depth of the hole on the arm side of the joint. This was then saturated in superglue and attached in place. Now, I used a lot more glue than I normally do in pinning, as I was trying to get a bond not only on the pin, but also on the larger surface area between the gun and the arm. With the gun attached to the right arm, I could do the same with the other, the left arm, which is only half an arm. With the weapons added to the arms, I can then look to putting the arms back onto the body. The right arm needed a little bit of cleaning done with a knife at the joint area where it sheared off before a pinning joint could be made, securing the arm back to the body nicely. With the left arm, much the same needed to be done. The area was large enough that plastic glue would likely have taken hold well enough, but I feel with the gun protruding so far from the body, it would need a pin. Plus, I may have a pin addiction at this point. With both arms now in place, the feet are dry enough to work with, so taking the drill, I stuck a hole in for the, you guessed it, pin, right in the middle of the sprue on both feet. Taking my knife, I cleaned up the joint area on the leg. Now, the original leg here would have a ball joint so the model can be posed properly onto the base. Unfortunately, that is long gone, so here I had to cut an angle in the leg joint slightly with my knife, so that once glued to the foot, it isn't standing at an awkward angle, facing the floor or leaning upwards looking at the sky. With the angle cut on the bottom of the legs, I can make an indent with my knife to help start the drill off. Then drill it out before popping in a glued paperclip, clipping it off and attaching the feet and the leg together. And with those in place, this guy is going to need a base to stand on. These broken models did not come with bases, and unfortunately I do not have any of the right size lying around, so once again it's 3D printer time. And these ones I have here are a little more thinner and flexible than the plastic ones, but they will do the job quite nicely. To ensure a good bond, holding that battlesuit in place is a pin inserted into the feet. This rather spindly leg and foot assembly has to hold the entire model upright, so it really helps to give it some kind of reinforcement. Now that it has a base, and my tub of basing material is to hand, might as well glue some of that on there. PVA glue works well for bases, but as I was holding the super glue anyway, I figured what the hell. So a good coat of glue, and it can be dunked into the basing mix before shaking off the excess. If any areas look like they could use a little more, just dab on a little bit more glue and dunk it once again. With that complete, one of my 4 battlesuits was repaired. Now for some paint. A friend of mine noted that the white armour looks rather striking on Tau, and I foolishly agreed. I have now since regretted every moment of trying to paint white armoured Tau, so please forgive the rather rushed paint job. After 2 squads of fire warriors, I was just keen to get this guy done fast. So here is 3 of the 4 that are finished. All of them have replacement feet, as that seems to be the most likely part to break on the plastic models. And one of them needed some rather drastic surgery, as if he looked as if he'd been on the wrong side of an orc warg. To anyone that got this far in the video, thanks for watching. I got to try out my camera setup and video myself pinning lots of parts. With any luck, lockdowns will end soon. Nice as it was taking a trip to the greater good, I would dearly like to get back to my original plan of something a bit more chaotic. Have a good one all.